G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life, and here's something different. This is a 2002 Toyota Caldina GT4N, and today I'm going to be comparing it with my 2006 Honda Accord Euro that I've finally got back on the road in the last couple of weeks. Both of these cars are fairly performance-y family sedans and wagons with plenty of space in the back, lots of nice comfort here in the middle, and fairly powerful four-cylinder engines here at the front. But the way they go about producing their power and putting that power down to the road is quite different, as you'll see a bit later on. But in terms of styling, with the Caldina, Toyota gave it a bit of a body kit, got this nice sort of little hood scoop here at the front, and some more sort of sporty amenities around the outside of the car and everything. And I think it's a pretty good looking car, but you can tell it's just starting to look a little bit old now, let's just say. The Accord in general, I just think it looks a bit more sleek, a bit more sporty, and you know, you come around the back and everything, it's got big twin exhausts and there's sharp lights and everything. Personally, I just think the Accord is a better looking car, but the Caldina is certainly not an ugly car. Now let's talk about powertrain. This Caldina has a 3S GTE. It's a 2-litre turbo engine. It makes 193 kilowatts and 324 newton meters of torque, which is a lot more than the Accord, which is rocking a K24A3. Makes 140 kilowatt and 223 newton meters of torque. So this is making roughly 100 newton meters and 50 kilowatt more than the Accord from factory. And this also, because it's a GT4, has four-wheel drive, whereas my Accord is front-wheel drive. When I jump into the interior of a car, I look for four main things. The first one is comfy seats, and this one has some really nice blue Recaro seats, and the blue trim on them sort of ties into the rest of the interior very nicely and makes it a very cohesive experience. The second thing I look for is a nice steering wheel, and this one has a very nice feeling leather wrapped steering wheel. It's nice and small, gives you sort of nice darty direct steering, and it makes it very enjoyable to drive. The shifter on this one feels really nice, and it has a manual mode as well, which is always good, makes it a bit more enjoyable to drive. And then stuff like, you know, the indicators you're going to be using regularly, if it feels like it's made out of cheese, then you're not really going to enjoy using it, whereas in this one, thankfully, it feels very nice. And the last one is nice looking gauges. You know, I'm always a big fan for some nice looking gauges, and thankfully in this car they look really good. Jumping inside the Accord, I noticed two things straight away. First of all, you sit like half a meter lower than in that car, which is really nice, makes it feel a bit more sporty. But then you grab onto the steering wheel and you think, am I in a bus? Because this steering wheel is vast. It's absolutely enormous when compared with the one in the Caldina, but thankfully it still feels very nice. All of the control surfaces feel very good. The indicators, the wipers and everything, all the brakes, throttle, clutch, all of that feels very nice. And the last thing that I absolutely love is the feeling of the shifter. It feels just like a bolt-action sniper rifle when you put it through the gears, and having this metal URR shift knob here on the top definitely helps with that. But what you guys all want to see now is which of these two lovely vehicles is the fastest. In the 0 to 100 sprint, where grip off the line is everything, the all-wheel drive Caldina is just so fast, the Accord doesn't stand a chance. And it's able to clock the 0 to 100 sprint in a whopping 5.3 seconds compared to the Accord's 5.8. However, in a rolling race it's a different story. Here the Turbo 4's mid-range and all-wheel drive aren't much help, and the power stepping 4-speed auto and lack of top-end power give the Accord a very slight edge in almost every race over 70 km an hour. The only exception was when we started off from 10 km an hour. Here the torque of the Caldina carried it on to a victory once more. So there we are, the Caldina has the Accord well and truly beat in any kind of off-the-line test. The launch on this car is absolutely ridiculous. Steering is really nice and direct. The turbo noises are just so good. And with this being the N package, it gets you a number of other sort of handling enhancements too, like some sportier suspension, a strut brace there at the front, sports ABS, among other things as well, which all translates into a car that handles okay. I've never liked the way all-wheel drive cars handle. Those rear wheels are always just trying to plow the car in a dead straight line, as you'll see. Turn in here, put your foot down, and look at this, just understeer. Just pure understeer from the front end. You can call me a rubbish driver, and I know you're not supposed to just turn the wheel like that, but it's an example, right? In a front wheel drive car, especially one with a limited slip diff, it just doesn't do that. It just hooks around the corner. I'm not gonna say that it handles badly. You know, if you push it through these corners here, it still grips up really, really nicely. It's just when you get on the power out of the corner is when you start to feel the front end just doing absolutely nothing. But it's not all bad. It's practical, it's reliable, it's absolutely ballistic. In a straight line, the turbo noises are absolutely sensational, and just the general fun factor that you get with a sort of older, more direct car with a big laggy turbo up the front there. It's just so fun to drive. For it to be a really perfect car, I just feel like it's a little bit compromised. You see, it's got this big tall roof, which is great for practicality in the back and headroom and everything, but then they've given it these really high riding seats, which likens the seating position to that of an SUV rather than a sports car, which would be fine if they gave it nice, soft, squidgy suspension, but they didn't. They gave it really firm suspension, which is fine because the stiff suspension goes hand in hand with the 2-litre turbo engine, but then the only transmission option is a 4-speed automatic. And it's just kind of like, there's just too many things that contradict themselves in this car that just make it not the most refined experience, I suppose you'd say. But despite its flaws, I still think this is a fantastic car. However, I do wonder, could the Accord be any better? The Accord is an entirely different experience. The Caldina's 2-litre turbo has so much mid-range torque. This, by comparison, actually feels slower because all the power is at the top end. But when you get there, it well and truly rewards you. What I love about this K24 is it just has so much character. To be honest, the 3S GTE in that Caldina is pretty lackluster at the top end, but this, on the other hand, is an absolute joy to rev out, and it just has this sonorous, phenomenal, visceral, fizzy sound at the top end, and it just keeps getting faster and faster and faster as you rev it out, you know. And it's so quick to knock it down gears, it revs up really fast. I will admit, it certainly doesn't put down power like the Caldina can. That inside wheel with no limited slip diff tends to just sort of tear itself loose as soon as you hit the throttle out of any corner, especially in slightly greasy conditions like this. But the outright grip that this car has, thanks to double wishbone suspension and really good tyres, is utterly phenomenal, and the handling of this for such a big car is truly outstanding. The transmission, now that it has the Type R gears, is an absolute joy to use. And above all else, it just has this refined driving experience to it that I really, really like. All the control surfaces just feel really high quality and well screwed together. I'd say the Caldina is the fun choice. It's the car that you take your friends out and floor it from a stop and give them butterflies from the sense of the acceleration off the line, and, you know, entice them with the sound of the turbo noises and so on. But aside from the speed and the power, it just feels a little unfinished. You know, it needs a better transmission, better suspension. It's still a fantastic car, and I'm genuinely disappointed to have to give it back. But I just feel like the Accord is the more complete package. It handles better, the transmission is fantastic. But truth be told, that's just me. For the price these cars can be had for, neither of them are going to disappoint you really, and with very minor modifications, you can turn these family sedans into some truly sensational sports cars.